Bob, just your thoughts, first half, second half? You guys got off a nice run to begin the second half and sort of pulled away at that point.
I'm trying to think how to say things without being. It's kind of like what my dad used to say, you know. I remember him saying a lot when he was coaching that you just can't stand prosperity. And we were playing pretty well. And then we come down and throw it to them really unforced. And then everybody gets to kind of trying to do their thing rather than do the team thing. We started out that way, really. Took 3 bad shots that hit the front of the rim that are outlet passes, I call it. Because it starts a fast break, and all of a sudden we're down 6-0. We're good when we pass the ball. We're good when we pass the ball, and we're good when we actually sit down and try to guard. But we get ahead, and we just – I mean, they drove the lane anytime they wanted to.
What kind of spark did Jordan McCabe give you guys there in the first half?
We played well in the first half. They have no clue how bad they hurt the team when they play out of team structure. I mean, because we're not, you know, we don't have Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. And I mean, we got regular college guys that, you know, and they try to do things that they can't do. And then they look like fools. But they can't figure that out. So tomorrow we're going to watch film and I'll show them how bad they look when they do those things, and how much better we look when we do the right things.
Your thoughts on a guy who seemingly is willing to do what just his role is in Lamont? I'm sorry, in Logan Routt, and goes, gets rebounds, does what he's needed to do.
Logan's come so far. It's crazy how far he's come. I mean, you're talking about a guy who didn't really get recruited by, you know, the conference schools, the D2 schools, and just has worked and worked and worked. And I mean, he's a legitimate, you know, player in the Big Five, and that's coming a long, long way. But he does what he can do. Too, you know, he doesn't get out of his lane, so to speak. We got a whole bunch of guys that, man, I'm telling you, if they drove the way they played, you sure as hell wouldn't want to be on the road, because they're all over the map. And Logan just does his thing. You know, he just does what he can do.
Are you encouraged by what you saw without Bolden or Konate on the floor?
No, I mean, I think Beetle, I didn't play Beetle just precautionary. You know, if we have to go through a year where they play a couple games and then they miss a couple games and they play a couple games and they don't practice and all that stuff, I mean, we're not going to be very good, or we're just going to have to go on without them. It's hard to get. Our biggest problem is we don't play very well together because it's different guys seemingly every practice.
You had a smaller lineup on the floor for a fairly good stretch in the second half. Was that because of the people missing, something you wanted to look at, matchups?
No, it was just I mean, they had 5 out. They had 5 out and they were driving it. I mean, Logan's not very good at that, and Drew's not very good at that.
Hey, Bob, going back to your situation with Beetle and Sags, Beetle just sounds like it's different stuff. Sags sounds a little more long-term. Is that...
Beetle's really banged up.
Yeah, but not like a chronic thing, whereas Sags seems like that's a bit more sustained. Will you be... I guess you will be, but...
That'd be a question for him to answer.
Oh, could he take games off or miss games, or...
He already has.
But like as you get deeper into this, and it doesn't sound like he's out of the woods on this yet.
I don't know how to answer that. I would answer it if I knew how to answer it. I don't know how to answer it. I can't tell you what's going on, you know, with his injury. I can't tell you what's going on in his head.
Bob, you've talked about Emmett Matthews a little bit lately. You see more and more out of him sort of each time out.
Yeah, I mean but you know what? It's refreshing because he comes in. He's in there early. He stays late. He's the kind of guys you want to coach. He listens. He doesn't ever like try to make excuses, or if he does something, you explain to him. And sometimes I explain a little louder than maybe I should, but he listens. He's not trying to explain to me why the guy drove by him and scored, or why he didn't pass the ball when his teammate was wide open or whatever. And he listens. With some of those other dudes, man, it's not a lot of fun, coach. I mean, it's really not. I can sit up here and lie and tell you it's wonderful, but it's not. And having those guys in and out of practice isn't. And the other guys are like, hey man, we're in here every day working our ass off. How do you move those guys, move them in there ahead of those guys that are in there working every day?
Bob, you mentioned McCabe in the first half. Game got down to 10 points though, and then he took you on a 3-on-1 fast break and made a no-look pass to Matthews for a dunk. I mean, which kind of turned things around there. Is that what you're looking for from him? Is that the kind of thing you expect from him?
Well, yeah, it is. Bob, I asked Cotton Fitzsimmons one time, who's the best player he ever coached? And I thought he'd say Bob McAdoo. I mean, Bob McAdoo led the NBA in scoring 2 years. He said Phil Ford. I said, Phil Ford? How's Phil Ford the best player he ever coached? He said he never made a wrong pass. He said he always threw the ball to the right guy. And that's what I want Jordan to learn. Throw the ball to the right guy. And, 27 dribbles might be a little much, Make the game easy. I had a bunch of guys come in when I had Fortson and Art Long and those guys, NBA guys, and they all came in, and I mean almost to a man. What they said about Fortson was he makes the game look so easy. Just makes the game look easy. I mean, if you watch the great players, they make the game look easy. Our guys make it like it's brutal. They make it look easy because we're trying to do things that we can't do. They're doing things that they've done over and over and over and over.
Bob, what's Lamont been able to do this last stretch to maybe stay consistent? I know he had a couple games that were kind of up and down there, but he seems to be playing well, right?
Well, he left practice one day. He was holding his wrist, and I went over and I said, "You all right?" And he goes, "Coach, no, honest, I'm not." And so the doctors looked at him, and they did some rehab on it, and I don't know what all they did, but he said it felt a whole lot better. But I think when he struggled shooting the ball, his wrist was bothering him. I think he probably got knocked down and tried to catch himself. And but he's gonna play. He's gonna play. We got some of those guys that they get banged up, they're gonna play. I mean, Beetle, if Beetle could play, would play. It seems like everything happens to his left hand, which is the hand he uses 90% of the time, or arm rather. Did I answer your question? Sometimes I answer questions and then I think, what the hell did I just say?
So do we.
Anything else? And I know you'd rather be able to execute the press as you have in past years, but how much of an offset, a positive offset, is it that you're getting to the line more and outscoring opponents to the line now because there aren't as many fouls?
I would rather press. I think I'll give you a crazy stat, and I don't know if it's ever happened before in basketball. We missed 44 shots against Gonzaga. They took 44 shots, and that's because we turned them over, because we out-rebounded them. So, I mean, generally speaking, if you have that kind of statistic, you're probably going to win. Of course, you don't anticipate having a 6.5 minute timeout to look and see that the guy was in bounds either. But no, those are kind of things that kind of jump in there on you that you're not prepared for.
Coach, thank you.
Yep.